Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Karlstad for the final round of the World Orienteering Day Torus series. Yes, we are here at the end of this very enjoyable week of Trelo celebrating World Orienteering Day, a day that comes round every year to showcase how brilliant this sport is, and to do that we've been competing in a 4-part series on the Tempo Simulator, the link to which can be found in the description of this video, for which we're here for event 4 today. And today, as we've said before, we're travelling to Karlstad, which is a town in Sweden, and actually the location of the IOF offices, which is the International Orienteering Federation, for an event set by Tom Hollowell and advised by Libor Forst. Now both of these people are big names in Trelo. They're both very strong competitors, and so I'm sure that they will have set a very strong course today to round off this series, and it should be good fun to end on. So let's just jump straight into it now. We're going to go into the World Orienteering Day Torus series section, and we're going into event 4. Which today is a 1 to 4,000 map with 2.5 metre contours. We have 6 stations with a 30-second penalty for every wrong answer, and the zero tolerance is 3 metres with a terrain of urban and park. And that's all we've got to think about today. No other information is apparently needed, so it should be a very simple event, which I'm sure is going to be a lot of fun. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting, correct or wrong, with the black and red letters respectively at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at this final event in the World Orienteering Day Torus series. And here is Station 1. Okay, a couple of buildings underneath a canopy and the vegetation in front. That building is going to be Bravo. That's not got anything on it, and that's the wrong corner of that building, but Foxtrot's under the canopy there, and Alpha is in that bush to finish off. And we've broken the 9-second barrier. We've got down to 8 seconds. That is incredibly quick, and I don't quite know how I've managed that, but to me that was a very simple station to open in on. We had the bushes in front of us. We noticed it was Alpha, Charlie and Echo, I believe, in the 3 in front, and Bravo and Delta were on the buildings behind. So when the first task came up and we wanted the left hand of the 2 buildings in the right hand corner, I knew it was going to be Bravo before coming forward to a bush, but it was the 4th one in the line on the right hand side, and I could see that was just out the photo with 3 thickets with kites on, being the left hand 3 of the 4. So that was definitely a 0 before the 3rd task came up, and we wanted the right hand building, but we wanted the left hand corner of it, I believe. So it was the wrong corner to be Delta, and then finally we had Foxtrot on the corner of the canopy and Alpha on the thicket to finish off as well. That was a really good station. I'm surprised I managed to remember that because we were barely there, but yeah, that was good. And hopefully we can keep this up now as we move into Station 2. Okay, staircase with the kites. That Foxtrot must be on the end of the wall there, and Alpha's up there. So that wall, or that corner, I believe is Bravo. Yeah, I'm going to go with Bravo. That end of the wall there is actually Echo, I believe. Yeah, we're going to go Echo. That corner there, I think might. Alpha's on the top, so I'm actually going to 0 that one. I believe Foxtrot's on the end of the wall there, and Charlie's there to finish off. And that station took me a lot longer, because to me there were some fairly difficult tasks there. The first task, opening up and trying to identify that corner of the wall, I almost put 0 straight away, but then I saw Bravo kind of looked in about the right place, and the wall on the map was the light grey rather than the black thick line, so I knew it was going to look a bit different to the Charlie and Delta Echo Foxtrot walls. So I did end up going with Bravo in the end, as it did seem in about the right place and the wall did look different. But we then came forward to the Echo wall, and I'd originally put Foxtrot on the end of it as I thought the wall might have been a bit further back, but I think Echo might have actually been there and Foxtrot was on the wall behind. That 3rd task though made me think a lot, as we wanted the outside corner of the wall and Alpha was on the top of the wall, which would be the inside, and horizontally that would put it within 3 metres, however vertically it wouldn't. So I'd be intrigued to see what the answer is there. We're going to have to look at that afterwards, but I did put 0 in the end and we'll have to check that. But then the 4th task came up and I think we went with Foxtrot on the end of the wall, and finally Charlie up at the top. That's possibly the task I'm the most confident with. But yeah, that was definitely a very difficult station, a lot harder for me than station 1, but we've just got to let that go. We're on a whole other station now, and we're rounding off the first half of the day here with station 3. Okay, stairs going down, 3 bushes at the back, and Charlie's at the back as well on a bush. That has nothing on it, whereas I believe Charlie's there. That wall also has nothing on it, but the end of the wall there, or the north side of the tree, must be Bravo, and out there between is Echo to finish off. And that was a much easier station than station 2, to me at least. We got the area at the back fairly well worked out, with Charlie on the side of the thicket and then Echo and Foxtrot in that patch of 3 thickets. When the first task came up and we wanted a statue, I was able to notice the statue in between those 3 kites and the Alpha, Bravo and Delta kites in front of us, so none of the kites must have been on that statue, and that had to be a 0 to start with, before going back to Charlie. And I did think about this slightly, as the circle wasn't centred on the thicket, it was slightly offset on the side that Charlie was on, which should have given away that Charlie was in the right place. However, that did throw me slightly. We did go with Charlie though in the end. And then the third task came up and we wanted an end of a wall, but I don't believe it was the end of the wall that any of the kites were on, thinking of Alpha and Delta there, before we then went to the northern side of a tree, and I almost put Delta as we wanted the tree. However, I did notice northern side and see that Bravo was on the northern side rather than Delta, before finally we went between 2 thickets in the patch of 3 that we'd said Echo and Foxtrot was in, but Echo was between the right 2. So that was a good station for the third station there, and we're already on the second half of the day. As I said on Sunday, these 6 station events seem to go very quickly, but we're just going to go straight in now with station 4. Okay, trees, there's a hut at the back and the 2 huts on the right hand side, on the left hand side, sorry. I don't believe I can see that though, and neither can I there. That tree is going to be Delta, before that hut is Echo, and there, that foot, I'm going to believe that's Foxtrot to finish off that station. And the 2 zeros there to open up were a very good trick. The first one was a lot easier than the second one, as with that first task we wanted the corner of the building closest to us and to the left, which would have matched Delta, but we didn't want any buildings to be closer to us than that building, so we saw Alpha and Bravo on the left hand side, but they were on the wrong corners, and that had to definitely be a 0 for the first task. The second task was a lot harder though, as we moved back to another building, and that would have fitted the Echo building description. However, I had just noticed a small building poking out the side of the photo, and that had to be the building we wanted rather than the Echo building. But then finally for the third task we came to a place that we could see, and we wanted the northernmost of the 2 trees and the northeastern side of it, so that had to be Delta for the third task, as we could see the 2 trees right in front of us, before we then went back to Echo and we finally had the building which actually was Echo for the third task. And then we came forward to the foot of a hill, and I was trying to work out whether Foxtrot was actually at the foot of this hill, as I could kind of see a hill to the right of it, and so it would have been on the southeastern foot rather than the northern foot. However, the hill that we wanted to see had a lot of vegetation on, and that seemed to be behind Foxtrot, and there didn't seem to be any vegetation to the right hand side of Foxtrot, so there had to be a hill kind of behind Foxtrot, and it was definitely on the northern foot of it. So I did go with Foxtrot to finish off that station. That's possibly the task I'm the least confident on in this station though, and we'll have to look at it again afterwards. That was another good station though. It's completely different to the first 3, and so we'll have to see what they've thrown in here as we go into the penultimate station of the day, which is station 5. Okay, load of trees around the building with the stairs and some open areas. So that's the building with the stairs, that contour. I can believe that's Foxtrot actually, we'll go with that. In there, I don't believe anything's there. That end of the fence though, nothing's there either. That crag kind of has Echo on it. I believe that has Echo on it, and then we come forward to Delta to finish off. And if you had put Delta for the second task there, going very quickly, I think you would have realised for that 5th task that Delta was actually on the spur and not back on that corner of open land which we wanted. That was a very cruel trick and possibly caught quite a lot of you out. We'll have to see that afterwards. The first task there made me think a lot, as we wanted the re-entrant, and I couldn't really see much of one in the land, but Foxtrot seemed to be in about the right place, and relating it to the clump of trees right in front of us, that definitely fitted as well, so I've gone with Foxtrot Foxtrot before the 2 zeros. We've already talked about task 2, but task 3, we wanted the end of the fence, and Bravo was on an end of a fence, but it was on the wrong end. We wanted the other end to where Bravo was on, so that had to be another 0. And then the 4th task came up and we wanted a crag, which only Echo seemed to fit the description of, and that did seem to fit quite well before coming back to Delta to finish off this station. And that was again a very different station, similar to station 4, but still tricky in places, and so that's the kind of station I am expecting here as we go into the final station of the day, which is station 6. Okay, huts of Alpha and Bravo, and then the tree back there and the fences. There's not enough fences there, surely. Yeah, nothing's got to be there. That corner of the fence though is going to be Delta, and we come forward to that junction, which seems to be Foxtrot. Between the 2 trees there is Charlie, and the map's rotated to come to Echo to finish off this station with a total daytime of 133 seconds, which isn't too bad at all for 6 stations, but it does seem to be an average about 20 odd seconds a station. That final station was quite tricky. We didn't have many features to open in on, and that fence was confusing me slightly, but when the map came up and we wanted a building that was the other side of all the fences and not near a path, I knew that had to be a 0 straight away. And then we came to a corner of a fence and I could just about pick out that Delta was there, and everything else then fitted for me. As we then came forward to the path junction, and Foxtrot was definitely there, although it might have not been on the right side of that path junction. We'll have to check that. We then had Charlie between the 2 trees though, which I was confident with. And then when we moved to the 5th task, the map changed its orientation slightly, which did throw me and distract me for only about half a second, but that still potentially might have added a second on, although I don't think it has, because the total time there is 20.7 rounded down to 20, so even if it added 0.7 of a second on, I still would have got a score of 20, so it should be fine. But we then came forward to the Echo tree, which was a nice way to end off the day. However, I have noticed that especially in this second half of the day, we have put a lot of Delta, Echo and Foxtrot, which may be possible. However, there could be a mistake there. We'll have to look at that when we get to it. But let's just go in with station 1 here, and this was my best station of the day. What I noticed here to start with was the 3 thickets in front of us, and there was actually a 4th going off the photo, but Alpha, Charlie and Echo were in these thickets, and Bravo and Delta were on the buildings at the back. I hadn't really placed where Foxtrot was, I was kind of just aware it was there. And then the map came up and we saw the thickets and the buildings in the canopy, so we knew we had to be in about the right place, and we wanted the left hand building of the 2 and the right hand corner of it closest to us. So we look at the 2 buildings, we see Bravo's on the left hand of the buildings and on the right corner, so it must be Bravo to start off this station. That was a very nice opener to me, and I am happy with that. But then the second task came up and we moved to the right hand side to the westernmost flower bed and the northern part of it, and we can see that Alpha, Charlie and Echo are all in flower beds. However, we can see a 4th one to the right hand side, and as there's only 4 on the map, we know we must be able to see all 4, and if we want the right hand of the 4, it's going to be the one out of the photo, which has no kites in it, and that must be a 0 for the second task. Well done if you did manage to spot that. Now then, for the third task, we moved to the right hand of the 2 buildings, but we wanted the left hand corner of it. So if we go in quickly, we would have seen right hand building, we want Delta. However, we want the left hand corner of it, which is the opposite side of the building, and no kites are there. So that must be a 0 for the third task. And then the 4th task came up and we moved to the northwestern inside corner of the canopy, and knowing where all the other kites were, I then turned to Foxtrot to see whether it was under that corner of the canopy where we wanted, and it did just about seem to be. So I was happy in placing Foxtrot as the answer to that 4th task. And then finally we moved to the left hand of the 4 thickets and wanted the northern part of that, which is the part closest to us, and if we go into the left hand of the 4, we know that Alpha must be there, so it was a nice Alpha to finish off the station. And that was a good station. That's definitely a full correct station for me, and to do it in 8 seconds is a very good achievement and possibly my fastest station ever, so I'm very happy with that. But we then moved on to station 2 and things got a lot harder, as what we had here to start with was some stairs on the left hand side as I picked out Delta, Echo and Foxtrot. I hadn't quite placed exactly where these kites were, but I knew they were in this area. I could see Charlie on the outside corner of that wall though. Bravo kind of just seemed somewhere, and Alpha was on top of this wall here. So when the first task came up and we wanted the southeastern outside corner of a wall, I wasn't quite sure whether any of the kites were in the right place. However, I had seen this staircase at the bottom and it was seemingly running in the same direction as this staircase, so I placed Delta, Echo and Foxtrot in this area, and so I could then see that there was a corner of a wall up here, and that had to be where Charlie Charlie is, and we're coming down the hill to about where Bravo is for this outside corner of the wall. And so Bravo was standing out to me for this task. However, I have just noticed the tree to the left of it, and that must be the tree up here. So Bravo must actually be near this tree, not on the wall, let alone the outside corner of it, and this must actually be a 0. That's quite a tricky task, and especially the rockery around that looks different to all these walls made me think that maybe the wall was actually there. However, realistically, Bravo would have to be a lot lower to be on the outside corner of that wall, so it must be a 0 to open up that station. Well done if you did manage to get that right. But then the second task came up, and we moved to the staircase, and we wanted the southern wall of these 4 in the circle and the western end of it. So the southern wall is going to be the one closest to us on the bottom staircase, so it's going to be this wall here, and the western end is the end that is just here, with Echo seemingly on the end of it. It seems just in the open land, however it's definitely within 3 meters of the correct location, so I can say confidently I think that Echo is in the right place there. Then the third task came up, and this is the one I thought about the most and was making me think a lot, as here we wanted the southern wall in the circle, and I can only see one wall in the circle, so that's already confusing me, and we want the southeastern outside corner of it. So we're going over here definitely, as we're going to the left of where Bravo was, so it must be alpha or nothing. And I've been trying to pick out these shapes in the walls. I can see the staircase going back there, and that must be the staircase behind it actually. So the wall must come down there, across, back again, and then when it's lit up and seems closer, that bit's actually further away. So the corner is here, and we want the outside corner of it, but alpha's on the inside corner of it, so this one must definitely be a 0 on the grounds that it's on the outside, not the inside. However, I don't know if that's legal, because I don't know personally if a 0 tolerance is vertical or horizontal. If it's horizontal and it's 3 meters across a map, alpha's way too close to this 0, and this shouldn't really be the task. You want it on that corner maybe instead. But if it's vertical, is this wall 3 meters high? That's still up to debate, so I wonder whether alpha's actually within 3 meters of the kite. However, this one is a 0 because it's on the outside of the wall, not the inside. That is quite tough, and we'll have to see what they say afterwards, but I believe that one should be a 0. I was very quick for the final 2 tasks though, possibly too quick for the 4th task, although actually not, as we wanted the northeastern side of the tree, and I think when I first looked at this I thought we wanted the end of the wall, and for some reason went with Foxtrot straight away, but it is actually on the side of the tree that we want. So I actually am quite lucky there that that one is Foxtrot for the 4th task, before finally we went up to the wall at the top, and we wanted the southeastern outside corner of that wall, where Charlie is very nicely placed to round off this station. And to me it's only the first task in this station I've got wrong. However, that 3rd task is up to debate and did puzzle me a lot, so we will come back to that afterwards I'm sure, but we will just move on now into station 3, which was a much better station for me speed wise. What I saw here to start with was a reverse of the staircase we were just looking at. I did manage to recognise that, as we also saw the tree on the left hand side, and it is definitely from the map. But I saw these kites dotted around this staircase a bit, but I was mainly picking out Charlie, Echo and Foxtrot at the back, with Charlie on this flower bed and Echo and Foxtrot spaced around these flower beds. So when the map came up and I saw we wanted a statue, I knew it wasn't going to be any of the 3 at the back, and I looked at the area and managed to spot the statue there with no kites on it, so I was straight away with a 0 there in 2.3 seconds. That was a very clear one for me, and well done if you did manage to spot that. And then the second task came up, and we moved back to a lone flower bed and wanted the southern side of this flower bed. So moving from the statue, we see the patch of 3 flower beds with Echo and Foxtrot on there, and we go round to the flower bed of Charlie. Now, one thing that is bugging me a bit here is that the circle is offset. When you're doing a side problem, generally you want the circle centered on the feature, and you have to look at the control description for the side, and that was something which threw me slightly. However, it should have really pointed out to me that Charlie was the correct answer here, as it was off-centered on the side that Charlie was. So that was definitely a clear Charlie for the second task, before we then moved to the third task and we came forward to the western end of the southern wall. And interestingly, we had this task in station 2. So knowing it was the same wall, it had to be the wall here that's hiding behind the wall in front of it, and no kites are on that wall, and actually no kites are on the ends of walls. Alpha's in the middle of a wall, and Bravo and Delta are opposite sides of this thicket. So if no kites are on the end of the walls, this must be a 0 for the third task. Before then moving on to the fourth task, and we wanted the northern side of a tree here, which is on the left hand side at the bottom of this staircase. So we know it's going to be this tree here on the left hand side of the bottom of the staircase, and Bravo and Delta are both on it. When I first saw the tree, I was going with Delta straight away. However, I then noticed we wanted northern side, and with north going to the left, we actually wanted the left hand side of the tree, which is where Bravo is. So that's why that task took a bit longer for me, but that is definitely Bravo there for the fourth task. Before then finally we were able to go with our fastest task in the station to finish off, wanting between two flower beds, and I looked up and saw that Echo was between the right two that we wanted, rather than Foxtrot being on the side of that one. So it was definitely an Echo to finish off that station, and that was a nice way to end off this first half of the day here. It wasn't the easiest of stations, as some of the features were quite hard to pick out at times, but there were definitely some key things to notice, and so well done if you did manage to do well. And actually, as much as I normally talk about first half and second half in the days here, there was definitely a distinct first and second half, as the first half seemed to be fairly urban, and in this area, as we can see station 1 there and station 2 up here, with station 3 in this bit, but station 4 then changed completely as we moved into this woodland parky area. Now what I first saw when we came into this station was the two buildings on the left hand side with Alpha and Bravo on the same corners, something similar to the first station actually. I wasn't quite sure where these trees were, but I managed to pick out a hut at the back where Echo was on as well. And the first task came up and we wanted the western outside corner of a building, but it was a lone building and the buildings around it didn't seem to match up to what we could see. As if it was going to be Alpha or Bravo, I wanted another building either side of this building, and I can't actually see this paved area either. So after looking at all that, I immediately presumed this first task was a 0, and I do believe I'm still right, as we then moved to the second task, and here we wanted the northeastern outside corner of a building, and this one looks a bit more plausible as Echo. However, if we're looking at these buildings around, I could see these buildings in a line and presumed I could see the front two, so Alpha and Bravo are on these two buildings, and then we look back and we can see a small building up there, which is probably the Echo building, not the building that we want. And then to top it all off, I saw this little slither of a building coming in from the right hand side, so knowing that building's there, that could only be this building, as that's really the only building that fits, and so this corner must be out the photo as well. So that was definitely a 0 for the second task. And then finally in the third task we managed to move to an area we did know, and so placing these two buildings as the Alpha and Bravo buildings, these two trees must be between them, and so must be the two trees with Charlie and Delta on, and we want the northern of the trees and the northwestern side of it, so it's the tree closest to us, so must be the Delta tree, and the northwestern side of it must be where Delta is. So that's definitely a Delta for the third task there. Well done if you did manage to get that one right. But then I found the fourth task even easier as we moved back to the building which we said Echo's on, so it must be Echo for the fourth task. It's definitely the right corner of it to be Echo. Before finally this fifth task came up and we wanted the northeastern foot of this low hill, and it's got a lot of vegetation on this hill as I've managed to notice here, and I look out in the photo and I can pick out a hill on this right hand side, but it's to the right of Foxtrot, so I'm immediately thinking a 0. However, looking at the map you can see that this building has a hill on it as well, so actually this hill is the hill with a building on it. We have a low hill as it's a broken contour with a load of vegetation, and Foxtrot seems to be on the correct side of that hill to be at the northeastern foot, and so I am happy that that one is Foxtrot, even though it took me almost half the time in this station to get. That was definitely the hardest task in this station for me, but I am definitely correct with all these tasks. And that was a very interesting station to throw in after the first half of the day. The 2 zeros to open in on, you had to be confident to get them right quickly, so well done if you did manage to do so, and the rest of it did seem to match up quite nicely. But then we moved to the fifth station here, and this to me was the hardest in the second half of the day, but it didn't seem too bad. What we did get to start with was a building on the left hand side, and I placed Alpha and Bravo near there, and I saw this clump of trees, so not really knowing where anything else was, the map came up and I could see this patch of scattered trees on this field right in front of us, and then I also saw this building on the left hand side with the staircase and the fence that matched, so I knew we had to be in this area to start us off. And we want to go just to the right hand side to a low re-entrant, and it's on this form line, so we know it's going to be small. And moving to the right hand side of these trees we can see Foxtrot in about the right place. It's about the right distance from this. I can't see the tree, but I'm presuming that's just out the photo, and I can believe that with this contour seemingly going round there, comes round a bit, Foxtrot is in the right place for this first task. It did take me 9 seconds to get, but I am going to stick with that now. Before this second task came up, and I thought this was a very very cheeky task, as we wanted the northern part of open land and the southeastern inside corner of it, and it's where this path coming from the building meets the main path. So we follow the path down and come into here and see that Delta could be in this corner, and if you're just looking at the yellow part of the cane, then it's definitely in that corner. However, notice that the cane also has a black bit at the bottom where it goes into the ground, and so Delta is actually on the open land at the top on the end of this spur, which we will come back to. And that means that the area that we want on the inside corner of this open land is behind Delta, but not actually where Delta is. So it's directly in line with Delta back there, and this one is definitely a 0 as no kites are hiding behind Delta. Well done if you did manage to spot that. I thought that was very cheeky. But then the third task came up and we wanted the southeastern end of the fence. So going off to the left hand side, we want the corner fence. So Bravo's the only kite on this fence, but Bravo's on the northeastern end, so the end which is closest to the building, rather than the southeastern end, which is the end there on the stairs. So that's definitely a 0 for the third task. It is definitely 3 meters away from both Alpha and Bravo, so I'm happy with that one being a 0. The fourth task came up though, and we moved to a crag, and I hadn't really picked out a crag at all in this area, so I had to try and work out where one was, and the only thing that I could see which fitted was Echo, and you can see this long bit of rock coming down here. I started to think whether actually Echo was too far to the right and the centre of the crag was here. However, it does continue past those metal boxes a bit further down there, so I am believing that Echo is in about the centre of that crag, and it must be Echo for the fourth task. Before finally, if you got the second task wrong, you would have realised here, as we wanted the lower part of the low spur, which is just through this patch of trees, and we look through and see that Delta is on this spur, which we said before, and it must be Delta to round off this station. So enough of very good station. The 2 zeros there weren't hard to get, but if you were going too quick you wouldn't have noticed them until you got to the final task and realised that it was Delta, not the second task being Delta. But I think most of you would have been able to get them, so very well done if you did. Before we then move to the final station of the day here, and here we got a slightly different view of this wooded parkland area, as we got a path running through right at the front. We had Alpha and Bravo on corners of this one building, and then some other kites around the trees, and then the map came up and we wanted a building that was the other side of the fence. So the only building we've said that has kites on is the Alpha and Bravo building, but there's no fence running across here, so it must be a 0 straight away. We can see the fence running at the back, and we can actually see this building behind Charlie and Delta, so that must be the building we actually want, and no kites are definitely there. So that's a 0 for the first task. The second task then came up and we wanted the northwestern outside corner of the fence, and it's coming up from the building, so we could see the fence running across. I couldn't quite make out where this fence goes. However, when I saw the map and I could see this corner shape in, I knew that must be this bit here, and so Delta must be on that corner, placing the second task as Delta there. I think that was fairly clear in the end. The third task is the one I'm questioning though. However, I do think I am right. Now I've seen this bit of the control description, that was the bit I was worried I hadn't quite read properly. But we wanted the path junction, and coming forward from Delta, it's by the 2 trees near the path. So coming forward from Delta, we see these 2 trees and they're near a path. So we're going by these 2 trees and we want the path junction just next to them, which is probably where Foxtrot is. However, this could have been a tricky task if the control description had said northern or western side of the path junction, as that would have put it 3 meters away from where Foxtrot is on another side of the path, and that would have been a 0. But I am happy that hasn't happened, as I did rush that task a bit. Foxtrot is definitely on the right side of that junction, so I am happy Foxtrot is the answer to that third task. And then the fourth task came up and we wanted between 2 trees, and it's back by the Delta corner of the fence, so we know it's going to be about where Charlie is, and Charlie does look between the 2 trees back there, so I am happy that that one is Charlie for the fourth task back there. Before we then came back to the patch of 2 trees and noticed that the map rotated slightly. That shouldn't have happened, and it did throw me a bit. However, I don't think that's really affected my score. It's just when they were obviously planning the courses, they may have had a different task as the last task, and so had to make this one very quickly and didn't quite notice the orientation was slightly off. However, it was still definitely in the right place. As we came to these 2 trees we visited during task 3, and we wanted the southwestern of 2, which is the back one, and the southern side of it, where Echo definitely is, to finish off this day. And it does look like it's only one mistake in this day for me, being the first task in station 2, and so it is going to be a time of 163 seconds, which for 6 stations isn't too bad. I thought this day was a bit harder than yesterday, and there were some very fast times yesterday, so I'm not expecting to quite be first, but I think we will be up there. there, let's go back and see where we are in the leaderboard. And we can see that I am in 4th place. So as we said, not quite first, but we are definitely up there. With one mistake, I'm not really surprised we are. But we'll have to see how much further we drop in the rest of this day here as we come back later for the overall results. And we are back to see that I've just about managed to scrape a top 10 finish here. We finished in 10th place with a time of 163 seconds like we suspected, with the one mistake in station 2. But I am very happy with that position. That was a very good way to end off the week. We do have to say a big well done though to Andre for winning today's event with a time of 120 seconds and no mistakes. That's a very deserving winning time. He was 12 seconds ahead of Marit, who was then only 2 seconds ahead of Pavel. Pavel made a mistake, so even though he was quicker on time than both Andre and Marit, his 30-second penalty took him back into 3rd place. So that just shows sometimes going a tiny bit slower but making sure you are correct all the time definitely benefits you, and that did happen today. Andre did seem to win the event though during station 2, where he came 2nd, and then entered 1st place during station 3, dropped down to 2nd in station 4 as Robertus took 1st place, but then with Robertus getting 3 mistakes in station 5, Andre then took the lead again to hold it for the rest of the day. So very well done to Andre for winning the event here. For me, the most interesting station for percentages here was Station 2 here, where we potentially had the lowest percentage we've had in this whole week, at only 28% of you getting task 3 correct. And this was the one here where we talked about alpha or 0 on which side of the wall. Now 143 of you managed to notice that alpha was on the wrong side of the wall and it was actually a 0. However, 301 did go with alpha, and there were a few for Bravo and Charlie as well. I don't quite know why. Maybe because Charlie was on the outside corner and you thought maybe we were up there. However, I knew we were definitely in the alpha area, and I'm not really surprised so many of you did go with alpha, even though I went with 0 in the end, because alpha was definitely within 3 meters of the correct location. And as we've said, this does depend on your definition of zero tolerance, whether it's horizontal distance or 3D distance, so it can count vertically as well. But it does turn out that vertical distance has been used here, and so the answer was a 0. The control description clearly said outside rather than inside, but I definitely almost put alpha before I noticed that. But well done to the other 142 others which also did. And also the first task in this station, less than half of you got right, and this was the task that I got wrong. 248 did manage to notice it was a 0 though, but 133 went with Bravo and 72 for Charlie. Bravo was the answer I went for, but we noticed afterwards that it was actually near the tree, so too high up the hill, and Charlie was on an outside corner of a wall, but we could see that corner further up, and we did visit that for the final task, which pretty much everyone seemed to get right. So those were my 2 interesting tasks for percentages here today. This did seem to be a hard station though, as some of the percentages were a bit lower than the rest of the day, so if you did manage to do well in this station, very well done. But since we noticed our mistake in the analysis earlier, we will just go back and look at the results for the overall series, and we will see that I have finished firstly in 4th place after my 10th place today and knocking out my score from Friday. I'm not surprised, that was quite a low score for me, but we can see that the overall winner this week is Aaron with a score of 297.68. His score today didn't count, but the previous 3 scores he'd set were clearly enough to hold the lead, as Andre came in 2nd place, only 0.04 behind him. However, he did win today's event, so he couldn't have scored any more points today, and that meant that Aaron was uncatchable for him. So it's a very well deserving win for Aaron there. And then we had Pavel about 0.7 points behind Andre in 3rd place, before he then came to me over a point behind Pavel, and then Kentaro about a point behind me as well to make up the top 5. So those are the overall standings there for the individual competition. Again, it's a very well done to Aaron for winning the series. He's a very well deserving winner, especially winning one of the races, so well done to him. And then we'll look at the clubs, and we'll see that by no surprise whatsoever, Massey have managed to take the series with a score of 876.1, which is almost 20 points ahead of MDoc in 2nd place, so they've won as always by a landslide. However, the other medal positions were very closely contested, as Linkoping's OK managed to gain some points on MDoc today. However, it wasn't quite enough, as they came in just under 2 points behind them, before MTV Season were about 3 points behind Linkoping's, just missing out on a medal place there. So well done to MDoc and Linkopings for making the top 3 there, but we also had OLV Landshut in 5th place, about 15 points behind MTV Season, rounding off the top 5 there. So no surprises there particularly. Massey have always won these events by storm, so very well done to them for doing so. And then finally we'll look at the countries, but we all know who's going to be at the top of the countries leaderboard here. It is the Italians with a score of 1,463.44, not even improving on their score today, Hungary, as they had their lowest score of the 4 events, but the Germans have managed to overtake the Czechs in this final event, coming in 24 points behind the Italians, but 5 points ahead of the Czechs, pushing them back into 3rd place. So the Germans there just nabbing 2nd place, but the Czechs have just about held on to 3rd place as well, with the Finns winning the event, however 0.8 points behind the Czechs, and so coming in 4th place. That was a very close battle, but well done to the Czechs for claiming 3rd place, before behind the Finns we had the Japanese, only 4 points behind them. And that is the top 5 countries for us this week. It's a big well done to the Italians again for winning yet another series. And that does bring us to the end of today. It's a big thank you to both Tom and Libor for putting this event together. It challenged so many different aspects of Trelo there, with the different terrains completely in the first and second half, and adjusting to it could have been quite tricky, but I think the course today was very enjoyable, so thank you for taking the time for putting it together. And to all the other course planners and advisors in the series this week, you've all made it a very enjoyable week to compete in, and I'm looking forward to coming back for the next series on the simulator, whenever that may be. But that is going to be the end of today's video, so thank you all again for watching. If you'd like to like the video as always, and be subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, making sure you click the bell next to the subscribe button and select all so you're notified whenever I release a video, and then make sure you are sharing these videos. We've just finished this World Orienteering Day series, but the events still stay up on the simulator for anyone to have a go at if they haven't already. And with World Orienteering Day being the opportunity to get as many people into the sport as possible, although we still try to do that all year round, this is the perfect time to be telling your orienteering friends about the simulator and getting them competing. So do make sure you're doing that, and then finally make sure you're commenting down below in the comment section any extra analysis you think I've missed from this video, or any small bits you think I should add. And I will join you again sometime in the future for the next event on the Tempo Simulator.